you'll see a fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Now when that pit is opened, all those sons of God, the B'nai Elohim that were cast into the pit, will be released, including some later additions like Nimrod, who was also a Gibborim. He was a Gerber. And when that pit is opened, the rise of Nimrod and the rise of the Babylonian religion, it will be a complete revival of the Babylonian religion. And that's to include the worship of Nimrod, who's also known as Baal in the common language, Hadad to the sacred priest. It's also the rising of Semiramis, who's known as Andromeda. And it's also the rise of Tammuz, who aka is also Lucifer. So when that pit's open, some very significant things happened. And one of the things I want you to know about this today is that if you go down here to verse 4, everybody's green today. Al Gore is green. Well, the Bible was green first. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God on their forehead. Now, I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your beliefs are. The question is, how do you stand with God? Are you in a relationship with God, and so that you know that the seal of God is on your forehead, that He's put a stamp of approval? Because when they release these demon hordes in the first woe, there's going to be a release, I think, of H5N1, which is aviary flu. And this aviary flu is going to be pandemic. And literally, it's going to cover the earth, and you're going to be stung, and you'll be so sick for 5 months you'll wish you were dead, but you won't die. And I think this is about to come upon the earth. And so what you want to know as we enter the three woes, that where do you stand with God? Do you have the seal of God on your forehead? If you don't, just take a moment now and just ask God to forgive you living your way, and commit your life to living for Him. And ask that He would forgive you your sins, wash you clean in the blood of the Lamb, and seal you for the day of redemption. That's a very, very important part of what's going on right now as we get closer to the return of Christ. As I said before, these are exciting times. God is revealing hidden manna. He's opening the books of Daniel and the hidden books in Revelation. And He is reaching out and talking to people. I want to go back here to the oil and give you an example. I know people that say, well, I just don't hear God in the world today. Well, I'm Irish, but I'm also Chippewa Indian, and my friends who are still on the reservation remind me that, I have a gift with animals, and they'll quickly remind me, Chris, there was a time when the Native American Indian, he could talk to the animals, and we know that's true in the Bible too. We know Adam and Eve could talk to the animals, and it's interesting because today I hear people say, God doesn't talk to me. And yet, I can tell you, I see God talking loud and clear all the time. A good example is, I think right now God is judging on this planet municipalities, principalities, powers, rulers of this dark world, wicked hosts in high places. He's judging your international global governments, your G8, G20, UN, etc., Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg, Bohemian Grove, you name it. He's judging the Illuminati. And I can tell you that He's even judging your national government, your commercial aspects. He's judging your state and your local governments. A good example is, I want to go to Revelation 8. And I want to go to verse 8. And I want to point out something here. The second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood. When you look at the photos of the Gulf oil spill, it looks like blood. If you look at the satellite photos updated, even today, you can see that black cloud. It covers almost the entire Gulf now. And it says in verse 9, And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea had life, died. And a third part of the ships were destroyed. Now, last week, Fox News had a marine toxicologist go in there and look. And she said everything's dead. The coral's dead, the clams are dead, the fish are dying, etc. And it was not caused so much by the oil as the chemicals they used to clean it up. In addition, I want you to look at this word destroyed right here. I'm going to hit the interlinear, and I want you to go down here, word destroyed. Diphtherio. What does it mean? Well, if you look at the erased portion here, you can see that it talks about to be thoroughly ruined. And it's decay. And I mean decay utterly, figuratively. It's corrupt, destroy, perish. But what this gives us a picture of a fishing industry that literally just decays at the dock. And if you know anything about the Gulf oil spill, I live here in Florida, the fishing industry in the Gulf has been ruined. Those fishermen are out of work. They have no hope of redemption. It'll take years to clean that up. You can't just replace coral overnight. Now, I believe that Revelation 8:8 in verse 9 is a fulfillment and has been fulfilled by the Gulf oil spill. And it's a picture of God judging the oil industry and government. Because government for 85 days was helpless. And it's interesting that even as it starts to wind down here in Florida, we now have a Gulf spill, as it were, in China. We have a China oil spill. And God is globally judging the world because the oil companies and the government have not been good stewards of the resources of oil. There's plenty of oil. There's 5 million gallons a day that were poured out in the Gulf. There's 30,000 wells out there. And yet we have an oil shortage created by advertising and supported by our government. And the tragedy of that is that gasoline is going for $2.50 a gallon to $5 a gallon at the greed of the government and the oil industry. You say, well, what do you mean by the greed of the government? Did you know the government makes more money on taxes on oil? As the price goes up, the tax revenue goes up. And they make more money on the taxes of oil than the oil producers make. And so they're in partnership in this. And so God is judging the oil industry. And it's tragic. I think we lost 11 men on the rig. And every loss of life there is tragic. I don't want to minimize that. But if God was judging mankind instead of governments and municipalities, it would be by the millions. Excuse me. By the time you get to the second woe, he judges 1/3 of the earth. Now, we have about 8.3 billion people on the planet. A third of that is, like almost 3 billion people. So when God judges, you'll know. It'll be numbered in the billions. And it won't be numbered by 11. Or in Katrina, there were less than 2,000 people that died in Katrina. I don't want to minimize the loss of any one of those lives. That is tragic. But if God wanted to judge the people at Katrina, believe me, there would have been millions lost. I've been to New Orleans many a time, and I can tell you, just a levee break alone could have cost 500,000 lives. And yet God spared the people and judged the city. You know that city's still not rebuilt? It's like the Twin Towers. Where's all the promises of government to take care of you? They still haven't rebuilt the Twin Towers. And tragic as it was, we lost, not 4,000 people. And every life is precious to me. But an hour later, we could have lost 100,000 people. If God wanted to judge man, he would have filled those towers and allowed them to fall. So God's not judging man. He was judging Wall Street. He was judging international trade and international commerce. And it's interesting because I don't think they're listening. I don't think anybody's listening. God is speaking, and people have learned not to listen. And I hope you're listening today. I hope that you'll get right with God. You'll sit down and take a look at these scriptures I showed you and realize that God is speaking loud and clear. And he's using a lot of revelation, a lot of hidden men. I think that my book, Star Code, is part of that. I would like to invite you to get a copy. Again, as I offered in the first part, if you can't afford a copy, go to the website and email me, and I'll send you a free online copy of the book. If you want a printed copy, well, you have to pay for that. But if you just simply cannot afford $6, I want to put this in your hand, and I will. Just email me, explain to me you can't afford $6 right now, and I will send you a free copy of my book. So I want to thank you for listening to part 2. I'll be back in a minute with part 3. God bless you and have a wonderful day.